Hello and welcome into the PHNX Cardinals postgame show brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcasts. Johnny Venerable, Bo Brock, Damien Anderson, Frank Sanders live at the PHNX headquarters in downtown Phoenix. Gentlemen, it was a tight one. Some of you may be at home sweating that one out, but the Cardinals did in fact lose to the Atlanta Falcons on a last-second field goal by the final score of 20-19. We'll talk about draft implications, where the Cardinals could potentially pick next week after the finale. But Bo Brock, initial takeaways from a game that, like Tampa, was very competitive.
I mean, I think this game had everything that you wanted as an Arizona Cardinals fan. You didn't get to see D-Hop play. Obviously, Kyler was lost a couple games ago for the season.
Yep.
But to see your fourth starting quarterback in 4 weeks go out there and compete, you like to root for a guy like David Blau, but only to an extent, right? You got to see Trey McBride have his best game as a pro, 7 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. But also you got to see the Arizona Cardinals maintain at least their draft stock in going into the 2023 draft. But look, you saw the team fight, and they continue to fight, and they're going to fight until the final whistle of the NFL season next week in Santa Clara against the 49ers, and you have to respect that.
You do. I think being in the locker room, in these locker room situations before, you went out, you gave your best, even though you didn't have all your best players. You fought hard. You tried to put yourself in the best position to win. 1 or 2 plays here just cost the Cardinals a loss. It's going to be a long plane ride home for the guys, especially for Kliff and company, and that entails the entire coaching staff. You try to put together a game plan that you can walk away with a win, but you came up short. And unfortunately, from one player being in the locker room, it's a tough ride. But also, as a fan on the outside now looking in, it's still disappointing because you still didn't get what you want.
Well, I think like Jalen Blair said in the chat, a beautiful loss. If you could take something away from this, is that the team competed.
That's true.
Right? And I think that at the same time, also, they knew what it was. As Bo said, their 4th starting quarterback of the season. They knew that they had minimum expectations. So to see David Blau go out there, to see Trey McBride do some good things, to see J.J. Watt get over 10.5 sacks for the season. Jalen Thompson, I think you said, Bo, his 3rd year having over 100 tackles at the safety positions. Not necessarily a good thing, but there is some positivity that you could take from it. Yeah. And Johnny, as you mentioned, it didn't impact their draft. They are where they are right now.
That's right. And we're going to have an updated draft board here in a little bit pertaining to where the Arizona Cardinals stand. The Denver Broncos, it looks like, are not going to be able to upend the Kansas City Chiefs, which is unfortunate. Looks like that game is final. Kansas City 27, Denver 24. But you live to fight another day for the Cardinals with a lot of implications heading into the final week. Who's going to be resting players? Who's going to be playing their full roster? Cardinals have to go to Santa Clara to face maybe the best team in the NFC, fighting for playoff standings and seeding. That's going to be a tall task to ask from Kliff Kingsbury and company. I want to go back to this game quickly, Bo, if I can. This team, the Cardinals, outgained Atlanta in total yards. They had, by and large, less penalties, right? They didn't have a true turnover in the game. They had a blocked punt, and they still found a way to lose. That's got to be disheartening for Kliff Kingsbury. If you would have told him before the game, listen, David Blau is going to throw for over 200 yards and a touchdown. James Conner is going to have 5 yards of carry and 80 yards, right? Over 100 total yards of offense. Trey McBride is going to explode for his best game as a pro. And you still lose? Yeah. That's disheartening.
I mean, that's just this team. Like, bad teams find a way to lose, right? Yeah. And we joke, tongue in cheek, we sweated this one out as far as Cardinals fan, want to have highest draft pick possible after such a brutal season. But yeah, I mean, this team continually and this coaching staff continues to find ways not to get it done. 6 straight losses. And if you look at those 6 straight losses, I mean, there was the blowout on Monday night in Mexico City. That one was really never close after halftime. And then you had, a tight loss to the Chargers right at the buzzer. You had the 2-point conversion where Staley shows, his testicular fortitude there, right? As far as the size of his manhood. And then you've got the Patriots, kind of coming back and beating you on Monday Night Football. And then you've got the Broncos loss that was tight at halftime. And then this Christmas collapse against Tom Brady and the Bucs. It's just like you've had chances, you've had leads, you haven't been able to hold on to them. And it's the story of this franchise, I feel like, since last December. I think we're officially at 20 games really since then. Yeah. And they've only won 5 of those. It's just not enough.
5 and 15, is that what it is?
Yeah, I think this fan base is ready for change. And, with more losses as they pile up, continue to pile up, I think the likelihood of that is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Touching on B's comment, look, you're absolutely right, man. He basically was talking about, as a fan, tanking doesn't feel good. You watch a team go out and play. The guys in the locker room, they want to go out and fight. You're absolutely right. The guys never pay attention to the tanking aspect. They go out and play depending on who's ever out there. Of course, if you had looked and said, I still got Colt and I got Trey McBride at the beginning of the week, and then you bring David Blau and say he's going to be my quarterback.
And no D-Hop.
That definitely feels like, hey, we're doing something that we
feel like coincidence.
Right. This is very coincidental. But in regards to, watching what's taking place, you're absolutely right, man. Bad teams find a way to lose, and that's unfortunately what we're taking place right now. The fourth quarter, Kliff, maybe that is strike. Maybe it did strike again. Maybe the way we called plays or miss. I can't say that because I think the guys played hard.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's on the back end of just getting that. He's getting the notoriety of not being able to finish a game and walk away with the dub, and that's just what's happened this year as well as in his career.
I want to just make a quick point here to everybody who is saying it's tough to root for the team to lose. I'm with you. I never want to see the Cardinals do poorly.
Johnny didn't act like it.
And hang on. But in the grand scheme of things,
the biggest Falcons
test yourself this. You're watching today's game. How many of these players are going to be on the team next year? In all reality, probably not many, right? How many are going to be carrying the weight and the water of this franchise
25,
next year?
30, give or take. 30, 32.
I would say it could be lower than that. New GM head coach may clean house entirely. And if you're sitting here in a position, I just want everybody put their GM hats on for a second, and you have the opportunity to entice a Sean Payton or a Jim Harbaugh or whomever with a clean slate and a draft pick. I know there's not a huge difference between 3 and 7, but there is in the grand scheme of things. You're in the driver's seat for a lot of different options the higher your pick is. And again, I'm not sitting here wishing ill will on David Blau and company, but David Blau's not going to be part of this football team next year. Hell, Colt McCoy's not going to be part of this team. Corey Clement's having a ham sandwich with this franchise. Right. He won't be back. So again, they competed hard. I give them credit. And here's the one thing Kliff Kingsbury can say in interviews this offseason. His team did not quit on them. Are they effective? Hell no. Do they make good adjustments? No.
Right.
But they did not pull a Nate Hackett and just say, Kliff, we don't respect you. We're done. We're quitting. They compete, but they've run out of time.
Yeah, I think
Kliff.
that's a testament to this locker room, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's got to be appealing for whoever, is going to be a candidate potentially for this team, right? I think that's appealing to see, hey, some of these guys that are going to remain on this roster, and there's 30 plus free agents that are going to be impending for the Cardinals. But there's guys like Isaiah Simmons, Zaven Collins, Jalen Thompson, guys that are left that have made it to this part of the season without suffering a season-ending injury like Buddha and Zach Allen potentially and Byron Murphy. And it's really unfortunate. But these guys are playing their asses off. Yeah, credit to them. And, if it's not Sean Payton, if it's not Jim Harbaugh, if it's not DeMeco Ryan, whoever it might be is going to be able to turn on the film and say, okay, these guys, like what Vance said last week, and he told me in the press conference, it wasn't because guys had quit. It's kind of like a warning, like, hey, there's 2 more games of film. We want to make sure that you guys aren't going to put bad performances out there by not giving them max effort.
I've been in those situations. I mean, from the teams that I've played on with the Cardinals, I mean, we weren't in favorable positions. I remember going into the draft with Larry Fitzgerald and the Minnesota Vikings and the impact of that game. And just your state of being is just you want to go out there. You're not even thinking about because everyone in the press and media is talking about the draft pick and the implication and who you're going to get and the impact that it has. But Bo, to your point, as a player, you're worried about the next play, showing up on film, putting great work out there because that is your resume. How you play is your resume. So regardless, there's, as I said a little bit earlier, there's victories within the game, small victories within the game. So I know it has contextually, Johnny, a huge macro impact because, where you could be being number 4 versus number 8 is a big difference, right? In the grand scheme of things in terms of the value and equity at that draft position. But if you ask a player, they're trying to win that football game. Yeah. And I would say that, like Frank, as we talked about, maybe ill-equipped a little bit with the changes that happened, throwing David Blau. I commend David Blau for going in there and playing like he did, considering the circumstances and showing command, showing confidence. I mean, and it seemed like they opened up the playbook with him as well, going under center, doing some bootlegs, going pistol, different personnel options for him. Yeah. So he looked comfortable, and I think he to me, in one game he outplayed Trace McSorley. And I mean that's solely what the game is about. If it's about evaluating, he played well today.
Look, when you look at what Kliff was able to do today compared to what he was able to do last week with Trace, it's a night and day offensive performance. And it wasn't just because they played a different team. I think it was just because the actual play of the quarterback and David Blau. He did absolutely well. And also we saw our boy Trey McBride show up. Trey McBride showed up and actually did his job well. He was effective today. And he's only getting better. One of the comments Jose talked about earlier in the chats was that he named names, Jalen Thompson, guys, Myjai Sanders, pretty much the defensive side of the ball. Those guys went out and balled. They gave 100% effort today, and it just came up short. That's the sad part. That's the part about the game that's extremely tough for the player as well as the fan. Look, we think about that one play that could have changed the game, and then we can look back and think about that the same way. And there's just the guys went out and fought, and you can't be mad about that, because I think that you look at where we were at before this game. We saw the personnel that we had going into this game, and those guys came out and fought.
But guys, I want to throw this to you because Arizona Animal, I think, threw it in the chat. And, there's layers to this, right? Because we always know that Kliff goes to the quarterback and says, hey, what are you comfortable with? In terms of the game plan and the plays that he's going to call. And Arizona Animal threw in the chat and said, where were these plays all year? Yeah. So do you think it's a situation where Kyler's not comfortable?
I just think Atlanta's not very good.
Okay.
That, to me, like, you're watching Atlanta, and their front seven, I would argue, has less talent than Arizona's. And I put Arthur Smith, even though it sounds like he's going to keep his job, on the same level as Kliff Kingsbury. I think these two teams are very much comparable, but Atlanta has more of a culture of being able to run the football effectively. But we watched that first half, guys, together, and it's like, there's a reason Atlanta's 5-10. Their defense is terrible, and the Cardinals are missing, DBs left and right. And I thought they did. But
I mean, the Cardinals aren't that far away from. Right. I mean, they're worse.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't. That's why I don't put too much stock in the success of the team today.
I would say,
like, scheming things open and how slick
but
it looks.
I think it's more of like Kliff being like, hey, this guy is just happy with the opportunity. I'm gonna call whatever I want. And do you think maybe it's hindered with Kyle? Like, no, I don't want to do that.
Maybe, but I mean, it feels like a moot point at this point.
I would say this here. I think that Kliff, when you have a quarterback that 100% is a pocket passing quarterback, you know what you're getting. You know how to call your plays because
we've seen similar play calling with Colt.
But and that's what it is. When you see that, you know exactly what you're getting. Timing wise, you don't really have to worry about too much, Bo. I think you look at it, you look at your playbook, you call your plays as you know it to be, because you know what's going to keep the chains moving down a distance, what they're doing defensively against you offensively. And I think it allows you to flow a little differently than you would with Kyler, because if I call a play that's where we need 3 yards and we need just 3 yards, and he's out there holding the ball and moving left and right and sliding in the pocket and starting to run around, and then that changes the narrative when technically it'd have been a 1, 2, 3 throw the ball. Yeah. And I think that's a little different. Look, David looked sharp today. Considering what, play here, play there, he looked pretty sharp, and he made it work. When you look at it, only took him 1 week or 16 days to kind of figure out this offense and get out there and play. He played good, and I can't be mad at what he did, and I can't be mad at the play calling from what we saw. We just
Johnny's
came up
happy
short.
at what he didn't do and get that dub.
Right. I would call it more like admirable, right?
Yeah.
I'm not
saying you just got respect.
Yeah, I'm not
show that tape to 31 other teams this offseason and say, look,
get a job.
16, 17 days I've been with this sorry-ass franchise Cardinals that were headed to a top 3 pick. I made them competitive. I picked up the offense fast. I didn't make mistakes. And he did it. He had a couple of high throws, but he outplayed Trace McSorley. I'll eat all the crow. Maybe they looked at David Blau in practice. They had to have and said,
Trace McSorley.
Well, that's
way to go.
All right. Trace McSorley's been on an NFL roster all season. Don't give me this sarcastic. Don't give me this sarcastic clap.
What are we? Are we the Colts? Are we going like with they won the division banner up there, like 4th place finish? No. I mean, he played admirably.
People keep receipts.
Right. Yeah. They should.
They do.
As they should. And we appreciate it. Hold us accountable like we're trying to hold this organization accountable. But and you have to appreciate that the team, as in kind of echoing what we've been saying, is it played hard in a loss that can only continue to build the case against this coaching staff, this front office, and keep the status quo as far as the draft pick, or even improve it. And then you've got this offense, as I just tweeted this out, at 5 of the last 6 games under 20 points. And I know you've been doing that without your ones, right, for the most part. But I mean, this your coach is offensive minded. You can't find a way.
One touchdown
find a way.
today.
Yeah,
injuries, guys. Devil's advocate. Injuries.
Look, injuries play a big part of it for sure. But you saw that defense.
You saw that graphic
with Atlanta, right? You saw this defense that has AJ Terrell and who else? You know, it wasn't.
I mean, we saw firsthand with the Chargers.
This was an evenly matched team,
hobbled team, and they're going to the playoffs.
But this was an evenly matched team. We're two apples. We're two apples, man.
But a lot of the games have been competitive, Frank. A lot of the games have been
recently,
competitive.
and that's a compliment to the locker room guys, leaders saying we're not going to quit, we're going to battle. But man, like this is a results league. You're either winning or you're out on your ass, and that is unfortunately what's going to happen to too many of these guys because they just you're 4-6, and now you suddenly look up and you're 4-12.
Let me
you're getting shit canned.
Let me ask you with this, Johnny. Derek said something earlier, and he said in the chat, he said, "Hey, I've been, I was at Sun Devil Stadium, but I was there too with you, and I went through 3 head coaches.
That's right.
Yeah.
I went through 3 head coaches, 4 offensive coordinators, and 12 quarterbacks. So when you're losing,
turnover.
You got
to shovel out out with the old, in with the new. And today, as Bo mentioned, this only strengthened the case for Kliff Kingsbury, especially like San Francisco. They could win next week in San Francisco if the Niners play their 2s and 3s. We're going to see. And we got all week to talk about that. But here's what I do want to talk about. I want to talk about the DraftKings player of the game, our king of the game, that being the one, the only Trey McBride.
Crown him.
Yes. Respect. 7 catches, 78 yards, a touchdown.
That's his first touchdown?
Yeah, it was his first touchdown. Man, big number 85 out of Colorado State.
There you go.
Gentlemen, we had questions throughout the year like, why is he inactive? Why isn't he getting, catches in the passing game? Blah, blah, blah. And we said this on the halftime show. Silver lining, Zach Ertzen's injury, terrible. Trey is making the most of his opportunities, albeit for a bad team. I think you're going to be able to pivot this momentum with whomever's coaching this team next year and say, 85, I got a plug-and-play starter that can be a plus pass catcher and run blocker, and it's somebody that, Bo, the Cardinals can now build around wholeheartedly.
Absolutely, they should, and it's exciting for the first time, a position of such futility, right?
Yep.
Since they moved to the desert, we've seen the stat ad nauseum that they haven't had a 100-yard receiving tight end since 1989. There's people in this on this show right now, producer Emma, who wasn't even a glimmer in her parents' eye at that point. Years before.
It's a deep cut.
It's too far removed. And Trey McBride, I got it. I'm going to say it right now. He's going to be the guy to end that streak at some point. It's probably not going to happen next week against San Francisco.
I agree with that, Bo.
But it's going to happen next season at some point. Trey McBride.
Yeah, he will. He's going to be exciting.
Big game for the kid. 23 years old, 2nd-round pick. He was the Mountain West player of the game. He's showing why the Arizona Cardinals they loved him. They loved what they saw from him. More good things outside of Troy McBride. How about some great food, drink, and atmosphere? Our friends over at Four Peaks. Frank's enjoying some Four Peaks. We got the Redbird Lager here. Of course, they've got their flagship. They've got the Kilt Lifter. They've got the Wow Wheat. They've got the Wow Wheat Light that Johnny thinks is a seltzer.
It's delicious.
It is delicious, regardless if you think it's a seltzer or if it's just a light beer. You got the Pumpkin Porter going into the new year. You got all the beer you want. Check it out at their 8th Street Pub Brewery in Tempe, or check it out at our PHNX Tea Party going down just a couple weeks, less than 2 weeks away, January 13th. Join us, $45 per person to join. The links on the action on the links, $160 per foursome. You can get your kids in for free, under 10. Got to hang out with us. Watch the Suns game that night. They got the bays set up. They got the TVs set up. They got the food, the drink, the merch. The contests are going down. The prizes will be won, hopefully by you. Of course, find the link in the description of the show. Join it. Reserve your spot right now. PHNX Tea Party, brought to you by our friends over at Four Peaks.
You can dabble at Four Peaks. You can dabble at DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Sign up with promo code, you guessed it, PHNX. Place a $5 pregame moneyline bet on any NBA team to win their game. Get $150 in free bets if you do. Not the spread, mind you, the outright moneyline bet. So take $5, go put it against one of the garbage teams in the NBA and make $150 in free bets. Only at DraftKings, only with our friends here on our favorite gambling site. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Fire it up for Trey McBride, the DraftKings king of the game. Hopefully, it's one of many that he will earn next year as a part of the PHNX Cardinals post-game show. We're going to keep this party rocking and rolling. pour one out for the Cardinals not having a top 6 pick this year. It's happening. They are guaranteed to pick in the top 6 of next April's 2023 NFL draft. And speaking of drafts, bomb, boom, bam. Here are our draft standings. The Arizona Cardinals stay at 4 at 4-12. The Broncos, they got you excited. They could not cut cheese today. And then you got the Chicago Bears, who did have a big fart in Detroit with the Motor City gang. Good news, gentlemen. Cardinals are rocking and rolling. They cannot drop below the Atlanta Falcons. Basically, you know, if they win next week, worst case scenarios, they're at 6. They continue to lose. We'll talk about the matchups. They could go as high as 2 next week. Everything breaks right. The Chicago Bears play a Vikings team that may be sitting people. The Denver Broncos, they've got a cupcake that we'll talk about here in a little bit that they face next week. So it is interesting, gentlemen. Bo Brock, you look at those standings. What are your initial reactions?
Excitement.
Yes.
That's what I'm feeling. I'm not feeling cutting the cheese or bing, bang, boom. And I'm feeling just some excitement that, you know, after eating a shit sandwich for 18 weeks, the Arizona Cardinals, the consolation prize is going to be a really good player. And if it's 4th overall or 3rd overall, you got some quarterback hungry teams with a pretty decent QB class coming in that you can either turn into assets or you can just pick the best player available, Frank.
So real quick, Houston needs a, Chicago needs a, and Denver needs a what?
Houston, I think you could say
Houston's a done deal.
They need a quarterback.
Right?
They're locked in.
Right.
Houston needs a quarterback.
Chicago can wheel and
O-line.
deal. They can go
Or
O-line.
or outside linebacker.
Right. They
Carter.
need a lot of help.
Wide out.
Yeah.
And then Denver.
But they're going to have a lot of cap space too, so they can do some work on
just,
that roster.
Just quick. And then Denver.
Yeah,
Denver doesn't have
Seattle.
a pick.
Seattle is Denver. So Seattle's still ahead of you because
Possibly
seven.
quarterback or front 7.
Okay.
It sucks being behind Seattle because Seattle has, you would
They're going
assume,
defense.
a lot of the same needs, D tackle, outside linebacker, where you feel like Chicago, they could talk themselves into a tackle or a wide receiver. But I mean,
you would love to see Seattle try to think they're so smart and the smartest team in the room and try to bet on Geno Smith another season when they have an opportunity.
I don't think they get a quarterback there.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
I don't think they do.
I'm with Damien. I think they think they are smart.
Right, and they'll pass on a potential franchise.
He is a Pro Bowler. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen because they got that one year that they signed the Patriots QB and got drafted Russell Wilson, and he started that year.
Castle.
Castle, yeah.
The Broncos
Castle, right?
get the Chargers next week, who very well could be sitting players. The Chargers can't win the AFC West, so it's just about seeding in wild card purposes. They have to go to Denver to play the Broncos in the season finale. From what I saw today, if Justin Herbert doesn't play, if they sit him in that game, we get the effort we got from the Broncos today, I think you can stamp your ticket to a top 3 pick.
They're playing for pride. We saw Russell Wilson with an interim coach, and they changed the play caller. They were playing for pride. You saw his teammates stick up for him, why he has an office, why he has a parking space. We support Russ. They're going to try to parlay that into a win because, yeah, it doesn't matter to them. They don't own their pick. It's going to Seattle. It doesn't matter if they lose out. So there's some incentive there for the Broncos, and you have to like that if you're a Cardinals fan, potentially. Yeah. Moving up to 3, as high as 2. Ooh, I'm getting giddy.
I could see Chicago even moving down. I think somebody said that in the chat.
Yeah.
And getting the offensive lineman. You know what I mean? Somebody that's really QB hungry or something like that.
Stay local.
Yeah.
Kid from Northwestern, right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
But I think that they can move back, though. I think that they can move back and still get him, in the top 10 maybe. Yeah. And have someone that's really QB hungry move up at number 2.
Who would, I mean, like, here's the thing. Everybody rooting for a W today. I get it. You want to see your team do well. The Cardinals this season has been miserable. You deserve a blue chip prospect in the NFL draft. The Cardinals that we grew up with so many times would win meaningless games at the end of the year and go from like 1 to 3 to like 10 and miss out on blue chip prospects. It's the years where they like, hey, Larry Fitzgerald, 3rd overall or 4th overall. Hey, Patrick Peterson, 5th overall. Like, I know they've botched the Levi Browns of the world, 5th overall, but man, they win so many stupid games at the end of the year.
Played in the Super Bowl.
Who's that? Oh, Levi. We don't talk about him. They passed over Adrian Peterson. I have seen that script, and I thought we were going to get that script the last 2 weeks. And again, we're not rooting for losses here. Maybe we are. But the Cardinals have positioned them now. You can go to somebody like Sean Payton, somebody like Jim Harbaugh, and say, here is my resume. My resume is a bunch of cash if you're Michael Bidwell. You got some cash and free agency to dabble with. You got all your picks, and by the way, you got a top 3 pick.
Cooper was 7th overall. Just Cardinals update. He was a top 10 pick, right? Wasn't he 7th overall?
Yeah, and
Jonathan?
they screwed around at the end of that year, and they won a game.
Yeah, I mean, how do you think Atlanta fans feel today?
Not great.
We took care of business at home against the Cardinals, and we're 6-10 now.
They feel great.
We're playing the wrong brand.
Oh yeah, they feel great. I mean, look, a dub is a dub. Like you get, guys, this is 7 days of this is 7 days of madness. Like you gotta go through let's just go through the process of a loss. The Cardinals are gonna come back home. They get the Sunday, then Monday they'll come in, maybe check in and get their body and see what's going on, get their check. Tuesday's an off day, but then that whole week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is a reset. You and your family got to reset. Your kids got to go to school. You got to go get a cup of coffee, maybe go out and eat. No, I mean, it's a lot of shit go on when you take an L. Like an L is a long way from the next opportunity.
You know what, though? They become too used to these L's. I see these L's too much on the regs. It's just like picking up a check. Hey, I got an L this week because this team has won one home game.
Desensitized?
No, they're not. Wow. They're not. Because your
Kliff
body
Kingsbury is.
Hey,
Kliff is desensitized to the losses.
Kliff says he never sees the mountains at his beautiful home sitting in Paradise Valley.
You know what
he
Bruce
never sees
that.
He sees an L every week.
All I'm saying is that
Bruce Arians would say, work smarter, not harder. Don't live at the facility. You don't need to do that.
Hey, look, and your boy got it. Your boy's amazing when he does. Your boy's amazing when he said that. He's absolutely right. I agree. But it should go home early.
But it took him some time.
It took him some time to figure it out.
Realize that you got to delegate.
We will root for Kliff Kingsbury after he leaves the Cardinals to have success. Of course we will.
I won't because at the end of the day, he might be on somebody else whooping our ass. I mean,
how I look at it, I want everybody to win, bro. At the end of the day, and you want Kliff Kingsbury and anybody who goes out there and represent the Arizona Cardinals organization on the football field to play well. This year has gone what it is. I think everyone who's invested and cares about the team understands the implications of, hey, if they win a football game, this can change the directory of our draft picks.
It really can.
We see the guys out there. I think Bo and Johnny do a great job of identifying, the potential, players that the Cardinals may select, and it's a huge difference between that getting that blue chip versus just a guy. I mean, we've seen that. You don't want to get a guy that you're going to, based on the system, the coaching that we have, a guy that you don't want to develop, right? You want to get a guy that regardless of if we call a stack blitz, a zone blitz, whatever, he's going to be in the backfield or he's going to be covering. Regardless of what's called, he's going to be making plays. And I think that you can get that being a top 5 pick.
Animal in the chat says, I don't get it because I don't get the fan perspective, but I do because I'm a fan. Right. I'm here watching it. I really do.
It's hard to see. I would bird hope on the helmet. Take an L.
Look, I mean, that's the point. Well, here's the difference. We're competing.
Right.
I show up to work.
Shit, doesn't even cross your mind.
This is my job.
It doesn't even cross your mind.
I show up to work. And so right now I'm at work.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get the fact that, look, I 3-13, 4-12, 3 times.
Yeah.
5-16, 5-12, 5-11. Well, 5-11.
I mean, think about it, guys. I'm going to put in perspective for everybody. I'm going to put in perspective for everybody. Think about it. You're at your job, right? And you're cheering to take an L to get somebody to replace you. Right. What does that make sense?
I hope we lose the account. Like, no, that's not happening.
That's exactly.
And there's a difference here. I mean, in Frank's point and your point, as far as what the players put into this and what they have to kind of take on post, all the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into it in a weekly basis, and then to take another loss of 6-1 in a row, that's brutal. And then I'm sure if they were to turn on this YouTube show and see a bunch of keyboard warriors like Johnny and myself, not you two excluded.
I am a warrior.
Rooting for losses, they're probably like, fuck these nerds. But that's fine. You can separate it, right?
That's a great thing about America.
Yeah, but this is what happens. But this is what happens. I will say this here though, like because we're competitive, I think the mentality doesn't really allow us to sit back and say I can't.
We're playing the long game.
Well, I'm saying, but we don't. I don't think I can't. I don't think like this one guy is gonna make the difference. I have to look at my team. I have to look at 16 weeks. I have to look at DA. DA comes in. I have to look at DA's Heisman Trophy. Okay, so what are we gonna do with DA? We brought DA in, and then we realized DA ain't playing. Why DA is not playing? He was up for the Heisman. So as a player, I'm trying to figure out why DA is not playing. You ask, why is number 45?
Yeah, Dennis Gardeck.
Why is Dennis Gardeck playing? And you try to figure out why is he playing over Myjai Sanders? Well, Dennis Gardeck just got a new contract.
That's right.
And so since he got a new contract, he got money. So there's more money on the line for Dennis Gardeck to play. And the guy that signed him has to prove why he's playing. So the mentality changes.
They're investing.
I'm on both sides of the fence because I understand it. I understand it now, but we just left a game. Some guys just took a nail. Yeah, we're still gonna get a draft pick. We're gonna get a top draft pick in the top 10. Shit, there's 110 Division I colleges. You telling me they're not at least 25 to 55 to 75 guys that can fucking play football?
Excuse
my language.
That's the beauty of the NFL. And here's what I say. You don't have to apologize.
Well, for that one, that was not effing. I apologize. We didn't need that.
And I'll
that's
be
that
a
Saul
hypocrite.
Bookman rant. That's that Saul Bookman status.
I'll be a hypocrite here. I love the NFL most because unlike the NBA and Major League Baseball, you can't deliberately tank. Like, guys are going to try. Now, the Cardinals, maybe they tried to manipulate the roster this week, maybe not. So
Really,
I get that. Maybe, yes, 100% they did. Tankathon is on. But what I will say is this. This team, you cannot give Michael Bidwell, assuming he's not manipulating the roster, any kind of false hope that this team is best led by Kliff Kingsbury with meaningless wins against Tampa and Atlanta and maybe San Francisco. You can't try to put a gloss over this, 1979 Toyota Tercel or whatever it is with a new paint job, right? And say, hey, we're good. This can last us another 2 or 3 years.
It's gonna drive though.
No, it breaks down on the interstate. You're calling, whatever it is.
As soon as you get on the interstate.
Yeah, that's right. And so you need to go to the dealership and you need to write a fat check for one Sean Payton and drive it off the lot, because unlike a brand new, Corvette, Sean Payton actually his value goes up when he leaves the lot. Unlike and
everything
a regular car.
Like, they're saying this team stinks. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We do stink.
I think everyone acknowledges
and
that.
it's simple. Yeah. But that's the truth. We do stink, and there's nothing that you can do. If you don't have the players to play, this is why I go back now, watch this flip. On the side of a fan, you need players. You need the players to come in.
What we got ain't working.
And what we got don't work. So where we are right now, I agree. We need the top 10. We need
losing players and losing coaches lose. Well, and the Cardinals are used to losing.
And the way that they're finishing the season, you can't think indifferently about it.
That's
right.
Right. We need
to
change.
Realize real changes in the works for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, you look at this loss. I mean, they outgained them, right? As you pointed out. I mean, they had way more tackles for loss. They were in the backfield. Yeah. They were making negative plays against this Falcons team all day long. More first downs. I mean, you look at the stats. Cardinals should have won this football game. Yep. Another game that they just found a way to lose. It's almost impressive, to be honest with you. It's almost impressive. All the work that they're putting in to lose football games it's unmatched.
Is it as impressive as Underdog Fantasy? Because I would argue it is not. Underdog Fantasy is going to cure your ailment of year-long fantasy drought. Like myself, Bo Brock, we have made the pivot from year-long fantasy where you're stuck. It's like you're stuck with this Cardinal team all year, but you can't just dabble on another team every day. You can't do that. You got to keep your allegiance to the Cardinals, but on Underdog Fantasy, you can start anew every single day with an NBA team, an NFL team, pick up to 6 NBA players, no positional limits, and that is it. We've had great experience using Underdog Fantasy. If you heard about Underdog Fantasy, you will not be surprised by this phenomenal deal right now. Underdog Fantasy is going to double your first deposit up to $100. Again, put in 100, boom, you get out of 100. All you got to do, though, is use the promo code PHNX at UnderdogFantasy.com. Download the app today. Like, I don't know, will DeAndre Ayton hit the over, or the higher 4 rebounds? Will David Blau make it to next week and hit the under for completion? We're going to find out. The lower for completion, but you're going to find out at UnderdogFantasy.com using that promo code PHNX, Underdog Fantasy. Get in on the action today.
The higher, the lowers. I'm going to hit the higher on furniture purchased at More Furniture in 2023 for the Brock household, Sanders household, Anderson, and Venerable household. I know you got to set up your guest room. You got the father-in-law coming in town?
Well, yeah. My parents are coming in, and I need some furniture.
Yeah, you need
more.
Yeah, you can't be putting your parents at their age on a futon any longer.
That's
you
right.
Get them in
he moves out. He gives them his bedroom.
Nah, never.
That's what you do. You give
the king in his castle.
Bro,
now.
yeah, that's what you
get an air mattress.
That's called respect, Johnny.
Maybe a nice fleece blanket.
Your dad is back. Can't take the waterbed. Another.
Y'all weren't raised right,
visiting
bro.
His son.
Y'all weren't raised right.
Furniture. Yeah, we were raised better than that. Put them on the waterbed. Go to More Furniture. Take advantage of their white glove delivery for one more day. This is, I mean, when Kliff Kingsbury is sent back and he might want the white glove delivery, or actually people to move him out, and then Sean Payton to move him in with the white glove delivery. Set up his furniture or your furniture exactly like you'd like. and it's not going to cost you that much. Minimum church purchase just under $2,000 at $19.99. But check out what More Furniture has for you in the new year to pimp out your residence, your condo, wherever you may be staying. It's going to look nice. Thanks to More Furniture. MoreFurniture.com.
Cardinals play their season finale mercifully next Sunday in Santa Clara against the San Francisco 49ers. Who is going to be playing? Give me one notable player and or coach that's going to be competing in their last game with the Cardinals next weekend.
Last game. Oh.
JJ Watt?
Well,
Yeah, that's a notable
outside
name.
of the obvious, I think we all agree Kliff is in his last week, JJ Watt. Any other Cardinals that you think could be playing their last game? What about like a draft pick now that maybe isn't, too fond of the new coaching staff or vice versa?
Maybe a guy like Calvin Beachum, who's been so good on and off the field.
Yeah.
I know Josh Jones had a tough game today, a couple penalties.
Hudson Pugh.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are IR. There's some
Garcia.
still discussion that Hudson could potentially come back. That ain't happening. Trust me.
Rodney's got his sack of money and running away from the facilities fast
But
as possible.
Beachum, I mean, you got DJ under contract. He signed the extension before the season. You got an up-and-coming tackle that you really need. I think you found out that he can play despite the penalties, and I think you probably he becomes your starting left or right tackle. Maybe you move DJ to the other side. I don't know, but I think Beachum, unless he wants to come back on a team-friendly deal to be a backup, and I think he could go start elsewhere. I think we'll probably see the end of Calvin Beachum.
Guys, I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to go receivers. Obviously, I'm going to say Robbie Anderson, obviously A.J. Green, but dare we say D-Hop?
I'm out.
I think DeAndre Hopkins, it's probably more likely he's off.
If we don't flip the script with the coaches.
But is it trade? I mean, are you trading them?
Oh, sure, yeah. You can get a day.
What are you trying to get?
DeAndre Hopkins to me has to be acquired for at least the top 60 pick next year, which is a starter, hopefully year one. Because again, the Cardinals, that's $30 million in cap space that they can move off their books. They can get somebody else in.
But we saw this offense without him.
Right.
Right.
But you have to trust the vision of the new head coach and the coaching staff. If it's Kliff Kingsbury coaching this team, God help us all, you have to keep D-Hop.
I told you if Kliff's my guy, if he's coming back, I'm not. If I'm D-Hop's, I'm out. Without a doubt. 30 million, 20 million, I'm out. Because
I'll collect it.
I'll collect that.
I'm out.
I think you can make the case to keep D-Hop. You can make the case for moving off DeAndre Hopkins at 31 years old. Business-wise, only guys named Larry Fitzgerald play well beyond 30 for the most part.
Well, I mean, just at the end of the day, D-Hop doesn't. I mean, he has a little knickknacks, but at the end of the day, when you're on losing teams, he's
been a consummate that guy. But he's been that guy,
and he's been that guy. And so, but when you're on losing teams, man, you find little knick-knack injuries to kind of they pop up for no reason. When you're on winning teams, man, everything feels okay.
So you're saying there's no coincidence to why he missed today?
Well, today, no, I know. When they told me David Blau, I was hurt. I got hurt when they told me David Blau was my quarterback.
Frank's
Shit,
like, I don't know if I can come
I almost didn't make it here
Blau.
today. I got hurt when they told me David
Those
Blau.
hospital
I was
balls that we thought were coming.
They was like,
actually
blah,
relatively
blah, blah.
accurate.
Right. When they told me on Friday, David Blau, I saw David Blau starting quarterback. I got hurt. I almost didn't make it here Friday.
Where wouldn't you mind seeing D-Hop play? Because he's a guy that you're going to root for beyond.
Can go in conference. So.
Once upon a time, this team traded a receiver the caliber of DeAndre Hopkins to the Baltimore Ravens when they traded Anquan to Baltimore. He went on to win a Super Bowl there. I think you rekindle those discussions and say, hey, Baltimore, give us your 2 for DeAndre Hopkins. Give Lamar the number 1 wide receiver he's never had.
I'm going to go Kansas City because they're going to have a later first round. I could see them potentially getting that.
Kansas City. I do think that we're not going to be able to look back at like the Amari Cooper. Look how good Amari Cooper's playing this year. You don't think Dallas was like a redo on that?
Right.
And they gave him away for a 5th rounder. I think even at 31, Hopkins' value, and I might be crazy, is still.
I agree.
He
like
could reunite with
first or
Watson in
second.
Cleveland.
Yeah, but here's the problem. So our general manager's out, and you don't know what if Adrian's going to be the guy or Q going to be the guy, and so we have to kind of you don't know what the numbers are going to be like on the table for D-Hops. If he says, look, like you said, they gave away one of the top guys for a 5th round pick, and Anquan is amazing. And apparently, this organization doesn't have that problem when they have significant players and they get to a certain amount of money or they reach a certain cap level. They have no problem trading those guys. We saw that with Aeneas. We saw that with Jameer Miller. We saw it with David Brown, David Johnson.
Yeah.
So, and we got a plethora of names we can keep naming when it comes to that. So I think there's a number that they will stop at. But to remove them off the books and to open up the pocket for maybe some younger guys, I think the Cardinals have no problem with moving D-Hop.
Bo, said it beautifully during the broadcast. Like, it's a win-win for both teams. Whoever gets the op, you're excited, you're fired up, you feel like he's the missing piece for your offense. And for the Cardinals, you're playing the long game, trying to rebuild this roster that's paper thin right now.
Yeah.
And again, if Kyler Murray's not going to be ready to go for the start of next year, then is that 4 to 6 weeks that you're wasting, D-Hop?
But what I have to throw at you, we see the league every week, and we see how important it is to score points. Not having a clear-cut number one.
Yeah.
Not having.
Go get one in the draft. Go find one. Do something this franchise under Steve Keim has never been able to do. From Hakeem Butler, Andy Isabella, Rondell Moore now.
You know who
go
has
find
been
an
able to do
impact
that?
receiver.
A guy named Sean Payton.
Oh.
He was able to draft and develop some
Tell him,
guys.
Bo.
Marcus Colston. Mike Thomas became the slot king. He was a second-round pick out of Ohio State. I mean, he was able to draft it. I mean, it took a quarterback playing at a really high level as well. But, be able to draft guys and develop them, it's been something that's you've been too far in between drafting and developing guys. I think what we saw today, I thought Hollywood Brown put together a pretty decent game. Catching passes from David Blau can be a compliment to somebody. If you get somebody big and physical, it can kind of complement what Marquise is doing.
Yeah,
you gotta like it. You gotta be forward thinking with it in this league.
Hollywood brings a lot to the table. When we had him on draft day and the switcheroo that we did with the first round draft pick, I was really disappointed with that because I thought, we had done a really good job of scouting.
Had to do it though.
Well, I'm okay with that. Watching him play, watching what he's been able to do, because prior to that he had hamstring issues.
But is he better than what they've had?
I think
Christian Kirk.
He's probably a little bit better than Christian.
Here's the difference. I don't think that we got a chance to see him play with his quarterback as long as we saw Christian Kirk play with Kyler Murray.
When Hollywood started the year, he was really good.
I
love Hollywood, I think, but Christian Kirk was a dog.
No, he is. We another 1,000-yard receiver over in Jacksonville. But our mentality is that I believe that HB brings a lot to the table. He's 700 yards, a little bit shy, not playing. But again, guy
perfect number 2.
Yeah,
Kirk just hit 1,000 yards for the first time in the season. It was his year 5. Hollywood hit it year 3.
But again, you got to look again. This is the conversation we have when you look at not being in a consistent system that finds a way to feature you or feature guys.
Hollywood was never featured in that Ravens offense. It was a run first offense.
Yeah, it was, but he still got 1,000.
I just want new. I want new players. I want new coaches. I want new GMs. I want new uniforms. And again, we preached about it all week. This fan base that is starved for a winner, that's been scorned by this administration and coaching staff.
Are you okay being patient though?
I was just about to say, hell yeah, I can. I want to. How many times did this staff with Vance Joseph fumble the talents of young players to watch shit play on the field for just veterans that had no future with this team? I'm sorry. Like I am all for you take your lumps and you're getting young guys snaps, and we can see the silver line. This fan base is smarter than everybody gives them credit for. Like I don't even think Michael Bidwell realizes this. Like, if you clean house and you start a bunch of rookies next year and young players alike, and you have a little bit of trouble, you can say, okay, I'm looking at the box score. That player jumped off the screen to me. I see the progress that they're making. You're trending up, right? You can't be afraid to do what like the Seahawks did this year. It's like, we play all of our rookies and they're going to have some tough times, but you know what? We've seen enough progress now where they should explode in 2023. That's never the case. Trey McBride, that's why we're fired up. It's really the first rookie draft pick, especially offensively in the Kingsbury era, that has had momentum going into year 2. Everybody else is just like, well, we kind of know what we have with this player, but we didn't get enough playing time. They didn't see enough snaps. Like Isaiah Simmons, I'll never forget this. I've talked about this before. Like after the 2020 season, Michael Bidwell came out with a video and touted star players like Byron Murphy and Isaiah Simmons. They barely played that year. They tried to manufacture something that wasn't there. And I will never put it on the players. I will 100%, even with my guy Rondell Moore, put it on this coaching staff. You got to get a coaching staff that is young player friendly. And even if that comes with losses initially, there's a plan to be made. There's not a plan, Bo. Playing 1-year veteran free agent journeyman players lose games. I can't stomach it anymore.
Right. It doesn't prepare you for the long haul at all. It just is kind of putting a patch on a sinking ship, on a sinking boat, right? And it's not big enough. It's just going to eventually
I
it's
don't
going to
care
fill
if you
up.
know Vance's defense. You're not any good.
Right, exactly. And it seems like it's coaches that have been backed into a corner that they feel like on a play-to-play basis they can't have a guy just kind of fail and learn from his mistakes. They need guys who can just be out there, even if it's a mediocre NFL but maybe not even above replacement caliber player.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey, look,
it's Ben Neiman.
Well,
Ben Neiman
they didn't
has
have a lot of
started and
depth,
played in
guys.
all these games,
They didn't have
and
a lot
we
of
never
depth.
say his name. He doesn't make an impact
But
on
he,
him
but, he,
down
but he
basis.
probably impresses the hell out of Vance
Right.
Monday through Friday, and I don't give two shits about that. And they have done a disservice to Zaven and Isaiah for not playing them 100% of the snaps as rookies. Because they thought, foolishly, like, we're going to win this year, and we can't have the defense being a
Guys.
liability and blah, blah, blah.
But you say that, but then you get out, you see them out there earlier on in the year, and they were getting worked, and you understood why worked against Kansas City and all the teams that had tight ends and
Isaiah
the ability
should be
to run
playing
the ball.
slot corner. That's a bunch of garbage.
What I mean, he runs a 4-3.
Kelsey
I mean, if it
works everybody.
works,
I mean,
fair.
yeah.
Fair, but my point is that when you're getting work consistently, their jobs are on the line,
Yeah.
right? They want to be competitive. You got to think that these coaches want to win. And I'm not battling you or Bo's point. I absolutely agree with you, but I guarantee a guy like Neiman, he's a guy that they can count on special teams because you need him there, right? The game that nobody talks about, the kick game, and then he's probably a reliable backup. And then when you have injuries coupled with that, that's why he ends up on the field. Right, you don't expect them to hear his number called, but that's why those guys stay in the league because they're smart, they don't make mistakes, and the coaches know that they can count on them. I think that what's more glaring is when you got a guy like Isaiah Simmons or Zaven Collins, where the expectation is huge, and you see them playing, and they just it's all about process. We talk about this paralysis by analysis, right? They're thinking too much; it slows them down, especially when you see a guy that are big, fast, and strong, and they just can't play at that high level. We've seen glimpses from both those players, right? We saw game-changing plays by both Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins, but I think what it was, we didn't have a lot of depth on the D-line to help them out, and it wasn't consistent.
Yeah.
So to have those two negatives, like that's what the situation that we're in right now as a ball club.
Let's continue this game. As far as we asked the players, as far as which players are we seeing playing their final game in an Arizona Cardinals uniform against the Niners next week. Vance Joseph, is this his final game as DC?
100%. Because even if there's a glimmer of hope for Kliff Kingsbury, Vance's defense has not been good enough this year. And again, I am not here saying that Kliff deserves his job more than Vance. He doesn't. He's been worse than Vance, I would argue, most of his tenure here in Arizona. But, I mean, Kliff would only secure his title based on the fact that you just extended him. Vance would be the unofficial sacrificial lamb in that scenario, and which would be wrong. It would be Keim staying over Steve Wilkes 2.0. You'd have to clear house for everybody. So,
I would say that this year, I would say Vance he has played probably 6 rookies throughout. I mean, that's D-line.
Christian Matthews,
D-line, secondary, about 6 rookies, and had to play them, and literally had to play them. So, I mean, yeah, if I'm Vance, it's two parts. I want to see these guys develop. I recognize the talent of these guys. I think Zaven Collins is going to be absolutely special in the NFL. Once he figures out how it works out. Zaven, Isaiah, these guys are going to be special. Majay is going to be special. Our D-line, any of those guys that played D-line this year, they got a chance to hang out with JJ, got a chance to see what it really takes to be a pro. Those guys are absolutely going to be fabulous. We watched that today in display. We saw Thomas, we saw Thompson, we saw Majay. We saw these guys actually play at a high level. Week 16. There's another week on the table. So, but I don't think Vance is going to be here only because of that. I think Vance is going to be going with the whole staff. But I think that he would want to be here only to watch those guys develop. But in truth, watching the way the organization have run it the last 3-4 years, if I'm Vance, I want to be out.
I'm going to give you a hot take right now of a player that I think could be gone. You think about somebody that they have to pick up his 5th-year option or decide upon that, a new coaching staff, new regime entirely that did not draft him. I think Isaiah Simmons could be shopped this offseason. I have no sourcing on that, but I think if the new DC's like, he's a tweener, he doesn't fit what I want to do, you ship him to a team that had a high draft pick on him, a high draft grade, I should say. Again, I think Zaven is much more your prototypical NFL linebacker, and I think he'll seamlessly integrate to what you want to do as the next regime. But Simmons, to me, that pick was a Keim special. And he's not found a full-time position. And you could say that's a mistake. It's going to be Hassan Reddick 2.0, and you might be right. You might be right.
Without a doubt.
But I think there's a chance that he could get moved this offseason because of the price tag that you're going to have to pay him as a top 10 pick and the money that's going to continue to go up. Picking up a 5th-year option basically guarantees now he's going to be in your plans the next 2 years. You don't roll your eyes. You're rolling your eyes at me.
I think if you think you're worth a shit and it is a coach, and you see a player the caliber that has the ability of Isaiah Simmons, you're like, no, you're not trading that guy.
There have been linebackers.
I could get the most from him.
Yeah,
I could get the most from him.
If you're worth the shit as a coach, you view him as somebody that you can turn around his career.
I would say I would say everything's on the table.
I agree with that.
In terms of if you get a new GM, you get a new head coach, I think that they're going to go down that roster and vet and audit and see, hey, what do we do well? What fits our system? I think if that's a turnover, everything's on the table, including D-Hop, including Zaven or, Isaiah, however they fall in, because it all has to fit with what they do, right? So you're taking that chance when you bring in an unknown, and all you have to look at, like, who did well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think going into the season, what is it, 4-11,
12,
4-12, whatever their record is, there wasn't a lot of good. I mean, we got some young talent like Myjai Sanders, Cam Thomas, Trey McBride, Greg Dortch, players that you wouldn't necessarily unconventionally think that were stars. And that's not where you want it, because you want your draft picks to do well and you want your key players to do well, guys like Kyler Murray. And that didn't happen this year.
Simmons isn't Andy Isabella. He's not an undersized wide receiver.
But it's a position.
He's 6'4", he's 230, he runs a sub 4.4. He's a freak.
Your quarterback is making over $40 million.
Not next year.
All I'm saying is
he's like 7% of your salary.
But you're going to have to make assumptions about Simmons being part of your future in the now, and you're going to have to tie guaranteed money to him.
It's year 4 for Simmons. You
pick up his 5th year option?
Pick up your 5th year option.
So that's 2 years.
You got him under contract. Yeah, you got him under contract for 2 years, and it's not going to be a big issue for you. You got a guy that you think that you can harness that type of athleticism. We see Vic Fangio, who's tied to Sean Payton.
Yeah, but you've seen enough of his potential ability to not the chunk of four.
He stood up Derrick Henry last year at the goal line. He
makes plays.
You've seen enough,
but he also gets plays made.
This is why I agree with. Like I think he's a good NFL player, but I don't think with the price tag that he's going to be paid or maybe asked for, I don't know if you can.
Easy said the same thing about Hassan Reddick.
No, Hassan Reddick before he left Arizona.
Everybody said same.
No, Hassan Reddick had 12.5 sacks before he left. If Isaiah Simmons has a Pro Bowl linebacking
his first 2 years, though, but his first 2 to 3 years were terrible.
If you were talking about Hassan Reddick right now at this point in Isaiah Simmons' career, you're saying sayonara. They didn't even pick up his 5th year option.
But he's a pass rusher. What is Isaiah? What even is Isaiah?
But that's the problem. I think that's on the coach.
Determination. Yeah, you have to say, hey man, you know what?
But he didn't really have a position coming out of college, though. Nobody really knew it.
And so that's when DA talked about. But that's when DA said the difference between being a general manager and drafting the best available and not drafting what your team needs is the difference. You cannot sit in here and say I want a top 4 pick, top 5 pick. And the guy walks in and says, well, we're just drafting the best available.
He won the game in Vegas.
You can't do it.
This is going to come off
as Johnny Zantai. He makes game-changing plays. He had a game-changing play against Vegas.
We know that.
He had a game-changing play against the Vikings. He had a game-changing play.
Dallas last year.
He got benched after the opener?
Yeah, but
in year 3?
But that's on Vance. That's on Vance and Kliff.
Okay. So how much emphasis are you putting on this coaching staff for Simmons' kind of lackluster
just mess with easy
career?
I think like 60%.
60-40? That's probably about fair.
Yeah.
The coaching staff versus
Isaiah.
Yeah.
60-40? 60 coaching staff, 40 against Isaiah.
No, 80-20. I'm definitely for the player. He has a lot of you drafted him because he has an athletic ability and a skill set. You need to make a determination.
Where should he be? From what you're seeing, where should he be?
What I say, actually, he should be a defensive end, and you need to teach him how to get around that edge.
Defensive
end? You bulk edge. You bulk him up. No, not linebacker.
What?
You bulk him up. You put some weight on him.
No one knows what to do.
You bulk him up. That's the part. So
I promise if he come on the show, I would have been
here's
super
the
nice
difference.
To him.
Watch
what
this
are we playing, a 4-3 now?
Long.
Might be.
He has long arms and he has speed.
He needs to be
he's rangy.
A Sam or Will in a 4-3
Is
defense.
a Sam or Will linebacker worth that pick though?
No, I'm gonna say
no. They're fucking not.
Well,
you
need
taking
it.
off
But where did Levante David and the other linebacker?
Levante David was a
White. Where'd they go?
They went. Devon White went top 10. Levante David was a second-round pick. Devon White is a much better football player than Isaiah Simmons. It is not close.
Well, Devon White is in a specific position.
But exactly,
I'm saying we're talking about developing him. I say if you grab him, he's 6'4". He runs a 4.3. I'm sorry. And he's got long arms and long legs. You put weight on him and let him get around the edge. You teach him how to get around the edge. That's all you do. You tell him how to get around the edge. What was Dwight Freeney is how tall? I'll wait.
6 foot.
6 foot.
And how? Thank you. So what are we talking about? And all he did was drop his shoulder
I
and
am
get around
not
the
ready
edge.
to bail on him. I
All
want
I'm
to see him
saying
with
is
another coaching staff, but you're going to know.
I'd still stand him up. I still put him at outside.
You're going to know.
But I'm going to put him on the line.
here.
More like Alden Smith than
I'm sorry,
than
I
Dwight
agree.
Freeney.
Yeah, I agree.
We're going to
More
know
than
pretty quick next year if he's a bust or not. Because
Either
if a
way.
second staff gets their hands on him and he still is not consistent enough, then you're just like,
You think you're worth a lick as a coach? You want Isaiah Simmons on
You're
your
going for
roster.
they're running a 4-3 next year. Believe it.
If he's my guy,
Now, if they get Big Fangio,
and I
Fangio
gotta go,
was a
and I gotta go.
3-4.
If I gotta go 3-4 defense,
No.
he's my outside guy, and he's bringing the edge.
I want
whole
to be
time.
wrong.
Jalen Carter
Speed
at the
around the
tackle.
corner.
You
Speed
got,
around the corner.
yeah.
Is how big is he compared to Myjai Sanders? That way.
They're about the same
About the
size.
same
And
size.
so then, what are we talking about?
Myjai's 6'5".
And he's not and he's not faster.
I'm with you.
So
I would
if
play Simmons at
Myjai
outside
Sanders can
linebacker.
do the same, Myjai Sanders he's a DN, he's an edge rusher, and so you're telling me
No, he's
I
outside
can't.
linebacker.
Does anybody
saying-
think that Isaiah Simmons is a slot
Same
corner?
thing.
Real quick,
Not
Is
at
he a
all.
slot
Definitely
corner.
not.
That's
You should be one.
That's
Not at
a
all.
fireable.
You should be
No.
one.
That's
Not
a
at all.
fireable
No.
offense.
No.
And that's where we put
No.
the
I mean,
end to
that
this
4-3,
coaching
bro.
staff.
You got to be able to switch
Well,
some hips.
4-3, but he's only played football. He don't have enough football timeline. He played back. He only played football his sophomore year in high school, and then sophomore, senior, then he went
Oh, you got
to
the biography?
Clemson
You
in
got the
2 years and he was
biography?
out. Oh
You're
yeah,
getting love
oh
in
yeah.
the chat, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
B's saying exactly, Frank.
I was
Fantastic
playing with
analysis.
him. I'm playing with him.
Frank's
Yeah.
got Isaiah in his back pocket.
Look,
Don't
I
forget
want
that.
to. I'm saying, what's your boy? What is a Pearson over at Dallas?
No,
Mike
Parsons.
Parsons.
Mike Parsons.
Yeah.
What does he look like?
A dog?
What does he look like? I said what he play like.
6'4", 250 probably.
He's doing it.
He is an ass kicker.
Put more weight. Put a little more weight on your boy.
But he got dog.
But you teach him. You put a little more weight on your
Parsons-
boy.
Fangio, if he comes to
And
town,
again-
needs to put Isaiah Simmons on a beefed up diet.
That's what I would do.
offseason.
This is what I would do with him. He's on my look.
Make him the next
I'm at
Alden
PlayStation
Smith.
and he murdering people. That's all I'm saying. I'm at home with PlayStation
Without
and he murdering
the-
people.
I like
Off
it.
the field?
Yeah.
I like it.
All right. I threw a time bomb on that. I apologize. I don't think Isaiah Simmons is going anywhere, but I think that's one of the more polarizing players that we're going to have to watch for. What you need to watch for is the fine work of Howard Balzer. Go PHNX.com. The Arizona Cardinal beat reporter for PHNX. Slam that promo code Howard, HOWALRD. Become a diehard. We've got the big event coming up with Four Peaks, January 13th. You can get money off of that if you become a diehard. It's just under, I believe, $80 for the entire year. Get a free hat and or t-shirt every year you're a diehard. Hang out in the exclusive member Discord. We're going to be doing a lot of yelling and screaming in the Discord over the course of the offseason. So you want to come and check that out. You also want to check out our friends at Burrito Express, hooking up the office this past week. I almost ate a week-old burrito today, and only because it came from Burrito Express. Buy a $25 Burrito Express gift card, and you get a free burrito.
Wow.
So you go in, you buy a gift card for friends and family, and you say, oh, please give me a free burrito. It is on free burritos for Burrito Express right now. Head on over to your nearby location. They are one of my favorite partners that we have. I've never had a bad meal at Burrito Express.
No, it's not tough. We got one more week. One more week of the season. A week from Monday is Black Monday, January 9th. It's I mean, are we watching the final days of Kliff Kingsbury as the Arizona Cardinals head coach?
Hell yes. It's over for Kliff. I mean, it's been over for Kliff for some time. Now the record is going to match the futility that this Cardinal fan base has had to live with. And Kliff, he's going to be a rich man. He can take some time off, but it is time to start anew. I just hope now. We've talked about
LA. Is he going to become McVay's offense?
I don't care about
coordinator?
that. I don't give a shit about that. Here's what I care about. I want to see Michael Bidwell approach Bo Brock and the rest of the media, but Bo's going to be in the front row at that press conference
Always
Monday
front
on
row.
Black.
Sleep
always.
out.
He
Sleep
gives
out the
these
night
elbows
before.
to the old school media in Arizona. This is Bo Brock. He's getting a front row seat, and he's going to look Michael Bidwell in the eye. And Michael Bidwell needs to come out.
Wait, what am I saying?
And have no, you're not going to say
He's
anything.
telling you.
You got your pen and paper ready to go.
telling you.
Michael Bidwell needs to have a plan, and the plan needs to be executed. I'm giving Michael Bidwell 2 weeks from the start of Black Monday to have a GM and a head coach. If we're sitting around at the end of January screwing and fucking around, then we're being left at the altar. We're left without a prom date, and we're gonna have to settle for a Ben Johnson.
Yeah, you're getting Ben Johnson. You're getting Mike Kafka. You're getting.
I'm gonna
Kliff
get Mike
Kingsbury
Kafka
2.0.
all over this floor. I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah, you're gonna get. You're gonna get another unknown. You're not gonna get a proven commodity. So you're gonna get Frank Reich, who's not an proven commodity.
Retreads.
Yeah,
no
you're gonna get a
retreads,
retread.
please. No retreads and no first-time head coaches,
I'll take
please.
Frank Reich, offensive coordinator with D'Amico Ryan. That's not a bad consolation prize, but
Yep.
you're gonna have to get creative because you're on plan C if you drag your feet.
Have we set ourselves up for disappointment? Because everybody
Yeah.
keeps yelling and screaming. Like, Cardinal fans, you don't get your hopes up. You're not getting Sean Payton. You're not getting Jim Harbaugh. This is the Cardinals. Or are these conversations that we have to raise the expectations of this franchise? I would go with the latter. I think if you let them put their guard down and say, well, no one expects anything of us. We've never hired a big-time head coach. We're going to go through the motions. You've got to keep the pressure on if you're this fan base and demand Sean Payton, demand Jim Harbaugh.
Well, Johnny, I think in the social media environment that we live in now, all those points you just made are magnified, right? And people talk about that. And Michael, I'm sure he pays attention to the local and national media, right? So all those things happen. I mean, a smart man would look at it like, hey, like we've been effective certain years, right? Like you want to keep what you did well, but as of late, we need to turn things around and do something new. And for me, is it going to be like a one shot, like, hey, Sean Payton or bust?
It should be.
Or, I mean, if that's the case, if you don't get Sean Payton, do you stay with Kliff?
You stay with Jim Harbaugh. You work your way down. It's just like the draft board. You have a big board of head coaches, and you work your way down. You cannot.
So you say, regardless, Johnny, get a new coach.
Yeah, sure. Oh, of course. Kliff's gone.
Okay.
You have a private jet. You have big-time funds that come in from that stadium, which was fantastic. I was at the Fiesta Bowl yesterday. It's first class. Everything about the franchise, other than the football product, is first class. You've got money to spend. You can't buy a PJ Frank Sanders and then write a little bitch check for $3 million for a second or third tier head coach. I'm sorry. You want to play with the big boys in the NFC West.
Yeah.
It's got to be $10, $15, $17 million a year for an elite. Pay a premium for a premium.
Well, what's great is when you have podcasts like this and social media, as you mentioned, it forces an owner like Michael Bidwill to pay attention, absolutely, and feel uncomfortable. Yeah. Like, I'm sure he felt very uncomfortable the past offseason when he was staring down, giving the kind of money to a franchise quarterback. It doesn't matter who it is. It's just, that's an investment that's got to make a guy like Michael Bidwill or anybody who's writing a check.
Well, Bo, to your point, that's why we saw the clause.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the
clause act like an idiot. Yeah.
That's why the clause was in there.
But that shows that tells you by putting a clause in your number one quarterback, dragging this thing out all the way into the end of the season, knowing you still, if you thought or you wanted to pay him, someone convinced you, Mike, to do that. That this was the right thing to do.
Probably.
And you're trying to be too smart.
I mean, well, at the end, you don't have to be too smart.
You think somebody convinced Michael?
The equivalent of that clause can't exist when you're negotiating with Sean Payton.
You'll get fucking laughed out the building.
So now we go back to the point that says you that's not what you really wanted to do. Someone convinced you. And Steve Keim could have convinced him or your boy, somebody could have convinced him that, hey, you really need to do this because this is what's taking place right now. You got $40 million quarterbacks on the table right now, so you have to do that. You were convinced, and now you look back like, man, this is some bull. Even maybe giving you a new contract, Steve, or giving Kliff a new contract. The Bidwills don't move fast. They're not flashy. They don't go for the flashy. Hell, they had a chance to get Peyton Manning, and they let him walk right on by. They don't go flashy. Name another flashy person they ever brought in here. I would wait. And the only two flashy people they ever brought. No, he was done.
JJ?
They brought JJ in with maybe 2-3 years left, and JJ been hurt the 3 years prior to that. He never finished the season.
Carson Palmer.
They brought Denny Green. So Denny Green.
Carson Palmer.
Palmer was kind of washed.
And he was already in another stage.
But he came back.
Y'all are some haters, bro.
No, I'm saying.
In Oakland.
He ain't retired.
He was done. And then your boy Kurt Warner was done. I'm saying, so
Denny Green, give us the
Denny Green. They brought Denny Green in, and Denny Green wanted all power, all authority.
Good.
And they gave it to him.
Good.
And then they got rid of Denny ASAP Rocky.
They got Larry Fitzgerald, though.
I'm saying, but they got rid of Denny Green ASAP Rocky. They will never do that again. They will never operate on giving some. They will not give anyone that power. I'm saying, I'm not talking about names. I'm talking about guys that were efficient.
Here's where I'm
going to
disagree with why this is different.
I don't see it.
Because you have Kyler Murray now, and you can't piss away this contract extension. You have to get a coach that can match Kyler Murray and get him to the level of greatness that we all expected Kliff Kingsbury to get him to. Because this is not a gut job in the sense that, like, clean slate, Houston style. You've got Kyler Murray. You're going to pay Kyler Murray, Michael Bidwill, Like, that money's not going away. Even if you tried to move him in an offseason or two, you're going to have dead money that's going to go to Kyler Murray and his people. So I would say, if I'm investing that much in Kyler Murray, wouldn't I want the best quarterback coach to come in here, Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton, and get the most out of Kyler Murray?
And that's what I mean. You keep him uncomfortable.
I just don't want them to think. I think this is, and I love Mike. I mean, I love the Bidwells. I love them as a person. As
you would have lunch with you guys.
No, I mean, I've done enough conversation.
Michael Bidwell is a good person.
But when you just watch how they operate, the operation doesn't come. There's 4 levels at the organization. The Bo can speak to this. There's a real top tier level that only 4 or 5 people hang out at. Then there's the regular level where the business people and management and marketing handle that. The second level is where the players go, and then you have the basement. That's what they have at the organization. What happens at the 4th level never communicates to the 3rd level. They're different. They do stuff different, and he will never give that control up again to tell me what to do, who to do, and who to get.
But he doesn't know what to do right now.
But I can't say. I mean, but that it doesn't matter. It's my team. I think Mike operates on that level. It's my team. It doesn't matter.
Bro.
It's my team.
Well, we own the Cardinals.
How has that worked out for him? Right?
Hey,
I've been to Super Bowl a couple accountability, times. It's not there.
We're making bread. We're doing good.
It's hard. We've seen it in Dallas. The same. We've seen it play out.
But they've gone big though. They've gone after Bill Parcells. They say, okay,
did that work?
Well, they got to the playoffs, and here's the thing. Michael, I think, is in the most vulnerable spot he's ever been.
I agree with that,
because he, for the longest time,
because of what Frank's pointing out, as far as 4,
Super Bowl, he's had a lot of goodwill with this fan base. This is the theme of the next 2 weeks. He is on the precipice now of being lumped in with his late father, not as a person, but as the president and owner of the Arizona Cardinals. Once a Bidwell, always a Bidwell. He can put out that fire right now and say, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, you're running the show. And
or just
standing,
hey, Kliff,
standing ovation from the fan base. But if he goes back to cheap and they go back to consistently losing mindset of bringing in ex-coordinator, keeping Kliff Kingsbury, you're looking at Bill Bidwell 2.0. And this fan base is ready to plunge on that.
Is Sean Payton watching film with Michael Bidwell every week?
But he wouldn't ask him to.
I don't think he would care because I think whoever the play callers
is that part of delegating?
The play callers are able to kind of dress up whatever they show up on film. I don't think Peyton would mind that.
I think there's some scenarios that.
Yeah, you want to watch me kick the shit out of somebody else again? Let's look at this recap where I undressed the Seahawks defensive coordinator for 4 quarters. That's what you would get. And then Michael would be like, okay, this is probably a waste of our time. I really enjoyed the win yesterday, Sean. Appreciate it. Yeah. Appreciate all that revenue stream that's coming in. Instead of Kliff Kingsbury, 1 home win in 15 months.
But it's time to stop being so against the grain, right? It's time to maybe get a team president in here, have another person you can collaborate with and delegate, different things that you see successful organizations. And that's concerning. That's got to be concerning as a fan.
But we know what's funny? As a player in the locker room, we were like that. But we had no control of nothing. We had no control. Players don't have control of any of the conversations on who's going to get contracts, who's not going to get contracts, who we signing, who we're not signing, who we bringing, who we're not bringing in. You might get a question on, hey, what do you think about DA? You think what do you know about him? What guys you know about him? You might hear those questions, but at the end of the day, all we want is to win. We want a competent, competitive team that can get on the field week in and week out, that deserves our time, our attention, and our money that we put together. That you're really investing in this team. We're investing in this team. And I'm just saying, when we look at the history of this team and the organization, they move at a different pace than we do. They don't move how we move or how the media tells them to move. Mike does stuff, and he does stuff differently. It
would be one thing if it was successful. I'm tired of this organization and this fan base being, that can be undeniably skeptical of the moves or the lack of moves that they make in the offseason, the way they approach the draft or how they approach training camp and who's not going to play in the preseason. If they were playing this like against the grain, outside the box approach, it better fucking work, and it hasn't worked.
I agree.
And this podcast is going to hold them accountable until the end of the line. And man, we're reaching the end of the line here with the 2022-2023 season. The last week, Black Monday, Black Week leading up to Black Monday, gentlemen. It's going to be probably the most unpredictable offseason in recent memory. The final game, we assume, for Kliff Kingsbury. Keim's been gone. No one knows where the hell he is. But what
as far as what Austin's saying, I think that's changing as well.
So Bo had a chance to kind of talk to Josh, and I mean, I think Josh.
I think just the way things, a lot's changed. We talked to Josh 2 weeks ago, right? And there's been 2 more losses. I think Josh is changing the.
It's possible. It's possible there's a change in there.
No one should survive 4-13 and 1 home win.
Heads are gonna roll.
It's gonna be, but you know what? We're gonna be positive when the offseason begins, because again, we asked for change. Change is coming. This podcast is going to change for the better this year for PHNX Cardinals 3.0. We're in our 3rd year. We're so excited to join you along this ride. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcast. It speaks to the passion of this fan base to watch this team week in and week out. We got over 200 people hanging out, ready to talk some Cardinal football. You got the big picture in mind, so do we. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, help share this video around the YouTube algorithm, the metaverse, whatever the hell you want to call it. We are back tomorrow, Monday. We're working. We're having a Monday show. Bo's going to be out at Kliff Kingsbury's press conference. We're going to be breaking down the final week of Kliff Kingsbury with the Arizona Cardinals, presumably. But in the meantime, Frank Sanders, Damien Anderson, Bo Brock, Johnny Venerable, Black Monday week has arrived. We'll be there.